Southern California travels to the Big House. It's their first matchup as a Big Ten member. Michigan will be the host. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. USC is favored by 6, and the over/under is set at 46.5, at least at about 2:30 this afternoon. Whenever we were putting this stuff together, it's no secret what this football game is about. Michigan's offense has been atrocious, specifically the passing offense. Rushing offense has been pretty good, especially considering everybody in the world knows what's coming every time Michigan gets the football. But Michigan quarterbacks in 2024 have thrown more interceptions than touchdowns at this point. And the offense has just sputtered. And I've come to the conclusion that Michigan and Sharon Moore and staff have just been left to pick up the pieces of what is a shambled resemblance of last year's existence. This team won the national championship last year, and they were as well balanced gets. And this team is the complete opposite of that this year. The defense is not half bad. Don't get me wrong, not half bad. But the longer the season goes on, the more this offense is going to leave this defense out to dry, Mason. On the other hand of that, we know what USC and Lincoln Riley, we know what they bring to the table offensively, especially Lincoln Riley. He's going to have a good offense, guys. And I think this USC offense is really just getting going, to be honest with you. We saw them face off against LSU in the beginning of the season. I felt like there was a lot of issues with USC and their red zone. Kind of who's the go-to guy, who's scoring the touchdowns here. I thought there was a little bit of, first game of the year, we're still trying to figure it out type vibes going on. And as the years went on, I feel like there's been more continuity with the offense. I don't really have any questions there. Woody Marks has done a good job in the rush game, coming over from Mississippi State, if you don't know, a transfer running back. I like Xavier Branch, Zachariah Branch, all the guys over there. But defensively is where USC has made all the changes. D'Anton Lynn comes in. He's changed things up. The defense, while it's still not deep, they've always had talented players. Now they seem to be playing in their positions and not just a mosh posh of 3, 4, and 5-star guys just running all over the place. They seem to have figured some things out. They're on probably a 2-year journey to get this defense to elite status or anything like that. But USC has figured out a way, I believe, to make their defense serviceable. And I have to say, probably one of the best medicines for a defense that's trying to figure things out is to play a Michigan offense, just to be honest with you. Mason, what is your take on this game? We've got some of the numbers up here on the screen. It's what you would expect as far as USC goes offensively there. But not as good defensively as you would think, probably in some spots for Michigan, and really, really bad offensively. What do you think about this football game, and what are some of your keys to victory and kind of points of contact that you're looking at?
Well, I think since we're talking about USC's offense versus Michigan's defense, we'll get to the Michigan offense here in a minute. But for USC this week, look, they were on a bye last week, so a lot of these stats that you're seeing as far as total yards and things like that, that stuff will change pretty quickly. But they've been really effective on third down, 47.37%. If you extrapolate that and you continue that through the end of the year, that you're not going to be 35th in the country. You're going to be like top 15 in the country. That's a really good number, if not number one in the country. I mean, a lot of these teams have such good success on third down because they've been playing a cupcake schedule. USC's not dismissed from that category, although they did have LSU, which, when you look at LSU's defense, they're better than they were last year, but that's not necessarily a great defense.
Right.
So, but the offense has been really good. They've scored in the red zone a pretty good bit. I think maybe one trip that they didn't score in the red zone. So they've had good success there. And what's kind of surprising about this offense is the run game has been really effective, like you said, with Woody Marks, which USC does tend to have at least one good running back under Lincoln Riley, or Lincoln Riley offenses in general, not just at USC. But then you look at the pass catchers, and look, going into the season, I would have said Zachariah Branch is probably your leading receiver. Deuce Robinson would be up there, but there are three players that are ahead of those two, and it's Lake McCree, 9 receptions, leads the team, 137 yards, leads the team, no touchdowns yet. Got to find a way to get these guys in the end zone. Kyron Hudson, another one, 6 receptions, 99 yards, no touchdowns. Kyle Ford, 4 receptions, 80 yards, no touchdowns. So as good as this USC's offense has been, they've kind of lacked the explosive plays in the passing game. Um, that's a little bit of a that's a little bit of a surprise to me. Going into this week, we're headed into week 4 now. A little bit of a surprise there, but Woody Marks has kind of made up for some of that. He's got 29 attempts, 171 yards. Remember, that's just in 2 games, but 3 touchdowns over those 2 games. Quentin Joyner, 14 attempts, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns in those 2 games. Both of them have been really effective, and a big part of the success of this offense that I think is still kind of growing. With Miller Moss, a lot of new pieces on this offense coming in. They lose a lot of the pass catchers from last year's team, and so far they've produced. And I've been really impressed with Miller Moss and the offense. I thought that they would be a step back from where they are right now, but I think that they're on pace to, by the end of the year, be one of the top probably 10 offenses in the country, based on what we've seen from other teams so far who might be ahead experience wise. I think that this USC offense has got the talent to really do something special. What I've probably been most impressed with, though, on this offense is the offensive line. We had questions about the offensive line going into this season. So far, they've answered the call, they've answered the bell, they've held up pretty well in the passing game, and they've also obviously been able to do some pretty good things up front with the rushing attack, averaging 5.3 yards per carry rushing. That's pretty good, considering we had some serious questions about their offensive line heading into the season. We were not high on them when we did our preview at all. I think that they're a little bit ahead of schedule. And again, this is an offense that's getting better week over week. A lot of new players, a lot of inexperience. They're ahead of schedule, in my opinion. For Michigan's defense, they're behind schedule from where we had them. We thought that this would still be one of the best defenses in the country, and it still might be. But the offense has not played complementary football. They're not extending drives. They're leaving this defense out to dry. And this is a defense that, as good as their secondary players are, that they're really, really good up front on the defensive line. And if you're getting those guys gassed and the offense isn't extending drives, that's going to hamper any defense. But for a defense that's as physical up front as Michigan's is, it's produced some issues for Michigan, and I don't quite understand it. I think that when you look at who they have in the middle with Grant and Graham, look, these are two of the best defensive tackles in the country. But it seems like they're getting double teamed pretty well, and kind of getting covered up. They're not producing a ton of stats, and teams are just kind of going right at them up the middle, and they haven't really had an answer yet. If you're slowing down this pass rush for Michigan, I don't care how good your secondary players are, they're going to lose. They're going to lose, and they're going to lose this week against a really talented wide receiver group for USC here. I think that Michigan has to feel really good about this game being played at home. That's going to play a huge factor. But ultimately, if you're asking me to compare the two, I think this USC offense is a tier, maybe 2 tiers above the Michigan defense right now, which is not something I would have said going into the season.
Let's talk about the USC defense against that Michigan offense for a minute here. It's a much improved USC defense. You can see some of the numbers there. I mean, not all of them are earth shattering. Been really, really good in the red zone, getting people knocked back and taking points off the board. That's a big deal. Third down percentage allowed. That's just a massive, massive improvement so far this year. 29.17% third down allowed. That's good for 31st in the country. And this early in the season, that's really good. 31st is really good because some of these teams have got some crazy numbers to start the year off. So to be in the top 40 at this point is really, really good. And that's the watermark that we set out for this team and the goal that we had kind of set out for this team in the offseason, kind of our first and long college football show, most improved trophy is it might be headed out to California because this group is just a whole lot better. They're just in all aspects of the football game, and they just needed a composer, man. They needed somebody waving the sticks and telling everybody, what their job was, and it seems like the defense, everybody has a sense of ownership now, and everybody knows their responsibilities. That wasn't the case last year, and they're going to look really, really good against a Michigan offense that, let's just face it, it's just completely depleted. You return one guy on the offensive line. You return Colston Loveland at tight end. And the rest of this is kind of a mosh posh of guys that, were left behind from last year's national championship team. Michigan was able to run the football real good last week. I think that USC has the guys on defense to be able to match up against this Michigan offensive line. Now, depth wise, I'm not sure that this USC defense is ready to hang in, for the long haul necessarily, talent wise. I think there's a pretty good drop off from their first string to second, but I think that this is one of the most improved sides of the football for any college football team in 2024, at least so far in the 2024 season. Now, Michigan's offense, we talked about it. They can run the football. And I'll go ahead and let y'all know, I saw on the last slide I messed up a couple of stats, so I'm sorry about that. And it was specifically the national rankings. It wasn't the numbers themselves. It was the ranking that I'd messed up on. So apologize for that. Hopefully I did the rest of these correctly. But Michigan just can't throw the football, man. I mean, you got Davis Warren, nobody wanted Davis Warren coming out of high school. I mean, I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be mean or anything. Nobody wanted me at quarterback coming out of high school, but I didn't play quarterback in high school. So, look, I mean, the guy had 0 stars. Alex Orji obviously can't throw, can't hit the broadside of a barn. Otherwise, he'd be playing some more quarterback at this point. So, I don't know what they do. They're going to try to run the football, obviously. 5.24 yards per carry. That's good for 42nd in the country. But you can see the passing yards per game. You can see the yards per pass right around the 120th mark. That's just horrible. Points per game, 99th. That's not going to get it done. So even if Michigan's defense hangs in there in this football game, which I think they might, they're not going to score enough points to win this football game. You're going to have to rely on your defense to get a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown or something like that, maybe a couple of them to be able to win this football game. Now, is it a blowout for USC? I don't think it's necessarily a blowout. If they do run away with it, I think it'll be at the end. But this is another one that I've already bet. Just to be completely frank with you, I've already put money on USC on this one. And, I put my money where my mouth is, and that's exactly what I did this week. And I'm on USC. What do you think?
Well, it's tough to really measure this Michigan offense. Just yesterday, Alex Orji was announced the starter for this team. I think that's a huge update. That's a big
Until
deal.
he throws 3 picks and then it's halftime. They're like, all right, Davis Warren is now announced the starter.
Exactly. I think this is a Michigan offense that's missing. I believe it's Jack Tuttle, if I'm not mistaken. He was kind of the presumed starter if Alex Orji didn't get up to speed, which he didn't, before the season started. But the fact that we haven't seen a lot of Alex Orji adds some mystery to this Michigan offense. Obviously, we know that he's good at running the football, But when you're strictly running the football as a Michigan offense, you become one dimensional. And I think that D'Anton Lynn is going to have an answer for that. Also, I don't understand what the purpose of announcing Alex Orji as the starter several days before the game is played. Like, show
I don't.
some gamesmanship a little bit, Sharon Moore. Got to question you on that a little bit. I mean, I know you want to
Yeah.
get Alex Orji some confidence built up, and say, hey, we feel really comfortable with him, and make that public. But I feel like you had a better opportunity there that's squandered to make everybody think that you're playing Davis Warren and then roll out Alex Orji at the last minute. I feel like that's a missed opportunity for Michigan here. But nonetheless, the offensive line, it's got to play a little bit better. They've been pretty good on the offensive line, but this is a young group. I do expect them to get better throughout the season, but this is going to be a huge test for them going up against USC's defensive line that's been pretty good in so far Lane, or excuse me, so far in Lincoln Riley's offense or defense so far. I think that one bright light or one, silver lining, I guess, for his defensive and his defensive line in particular is that they've been able to pass rush. Hasn't been so much the case with D'Anton Lynn coming in. It's a little bit surprising, but it seems like he's more willing to drop back a little bit and not over pursue, which they did a lot of last year as a defensive front. They gave up a lot of rushing yards because they were over pursuing, trying to get to the quarterback and trying to make plays in the backfield and not really playing sound gap assignment. So that has been a little bit of a change. But the Michigan offensive line, how do they handle that? How do they handle the defensive line for USC? It's a big question for me. I think that I think Michigan's finally starting to realize something that I've been saying since week one, that Khalil Mullings is your bell cow back. It's not Donovan Edwards. I know he's on the college football 25 cover and all that. He's not the better running back of the two. It's Khalil Mullings, and I think by a wide margin. You're starting to see him get a little bit more involved in the rushing game. He's going to be huge in this game. I think that you really need him to hit at least 100 yards in this one. You need Alex Orji probably to get close to 100 as well if you're going to win, if that's your guy. And then you need him to throw for like 150. I think that that's kind of the recipe for success for this Michigan offense. I think that they can do it. With that, you'll need your playmakers on the perimeter that have been non-existent so far to show up, make some plays. Samaj Morgan, huge amount of pressure on him to make some plays. I'm staying away from this one. I'm staying away from it. I don't know what the offense looks like with Alex Orji operating it for the length of a game. I think if it, and we're seeing this in college football right now. The old adage: if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. I think that Sharon Moore and Michigan are finally starting to realize that look, we got to live and die by this quarterback, by Alex Orji. We got to let him get the reps, let him get momentum building in a football game, give him the opportunities to play throughout the entirety of the game, and then let's see what we've got. Let's not judge him off of a play here and a play there. That he's not going to perform well. No, most quarterbacks wouldn't in that situation. So again, I'm staying away from this one. I'm leaning USC to win. I could see a win but not cover type of situation. I could also see USC running away with it, similar to the Tennessee OU matchup that we just broke down. I could see if a team is going to run away with this one, it'll be USC. I think that's pretty obvious. It doesn't take expert analysis to really come to that conclusion, but I could see this, being played in the big house. I could see USC losing this game. I could see the defense for Michigan stepping up. Mason Graham kind of finally showing up in these games and wreaking some havoc in the backfield. Grant as well coming in and causing some a turnover or two. I could see it. We know Will Johnson is a ball hog. He may very well end up with another interception in this game. So yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant to bet on this one, But I'm leaning USC to win and probably cover if I had to choose.
Yeah, I'm gonna trust my gut. Yeah, and I agree with you, Mason. Look, you got to build towards something. If you can't let it be a completely wasted season. If you're Michigan, you got to get a quarterback in there that maybe he's a grower, and you got to grow him. I mean, you got to develop him, and the only way to get reps is to get reps. And so I agree with you. If you're going to have a bad season anyway, develop somebody, right? Do some
Right.
developing, at least something to hang your hat on. And I think that's what Michigan's looking for, and the reason why they announced him as the starter this week. Give me Southern Cal in that one. Going to be an awesome Big Ten matchup there.